Hello again, friends. This is Nathan Garcia. I thought I'd have a short segment today about why I'm Catholic. And yeah, you may have heard about my conversion experience. That obviously plays a big part in it. But there are some very powerful reasons, maybe for lack of a better word, as to why I'm Catholic. And there are many, but these are the ones that come to mind, I think, the most for me. Number one, family. Family is all important. I would often tell my students that if you look at your favorite television series, your favorite movies, whatever, so much of it, if you don't realize, is all about the nature of family. Because every single person is called to family. I mean, think about it. Men, if you love a woman so much, you want to make her your wife. You want to make a family with her, and vice versa. With women, if you love your man that much, you want to make him your husband. Imagine having a role model, an adult, that you think of and that you follow and that you cherish so much. They're not just simply an advisor or a tutor or a teacher. They're a father figure or a mother figure. You think of your best friends. Your best friend, that term doesn't cut it. They're your brothers or they're your sisters. The best way to think about people and with the greatest amount of love that you can have for another person, you want to make them your family. That's a powerful thing because family is very central to what Jesus does. Jesus redefines a family. I think quite famously, he says that family isn't about bloodlines. It's not about necessarily mothers and fathers and brothers. It's all fundamentally about love of God. It's following God, acknowledging God. Because if God is love and God is goodness and He's truth and He's beauty, that's what really brings people together. That's what really brings people together. And the church, for me, expresses that in the fullest way. It lives it out. Not in every single instance, but that is the normative ethic. An old parish that I used to attend always had this, before you go walk into the church, it had this sign above it that said, "There are no strangers here, only friends we haven't met." And I really like that, and they understand that church is not just about, it's people coming together, but this is a family. We die for each other. We give our lives for each other. I think it's John 15:13 that says, "No man has greater love than this, than to give one's life for one's friends." That's beautiful, but that friend is not just simply a friend. I think properly speaking, you would acknowledge that person as a brother or a sister, as your family. Somebody who is instrumental to your growth, somebody that you are responsible for, somebody that's responsible for you. Somebody that love binds together. God is love. God brings this family, the Catholic Church, as a family together. I get to see that day in and day out with my students or with people who work at this parish, or just even in the teachings of the church and the way that people live them out in very practical and beautiful ways. The church is a family, and not only having a family gives you a special kind of insight as to how important family is. I have a wonderful wife, and I have a son and a daughter, and I realize that everything for me is painted through the lens of having a family. I'm a teacher. I think I'm a theologian. I'm a student. But more than anything, I'm a husband. And I'm a father. And those two come first. And the church helps me acknowledge that. The church deepens my understanding of my responsibilities. And I'm thankful for that, because having a family is the most important thing, because when you can't do things on your own, and you'll find that you can't do everything on your own, family is going to come to your aid. The church will come to your aid. And I want to be a good family member to the church, because just as with my family, my wife and son and daughter, I believe that being family with my fellow parishioners is not only what I'm called to do, but that is the true nature of the Catholic Church. We are family. And I want to live this out, because having family around, as you well know, I mean, there's nothing better. There's nothing sweeter than being with loved ones. And the church is just filled with loved ones. The second reason is the intellectual tradition. Being kind of an intellectual myself, and kind of being a theologian, I was dramatically and thankfully appalled, not appalled is the right word, just overwhelmed at the intellectual depth that the Catholic Church brings. Just from the outset, even from Paul and some of his reflections, his theological reflections, his letters, you get to some of the glory days of the Church Fathers, Augustine, Saint Jerome, John Chrysostom, Athanasius. These are heavy-hitting thinkers that are some of the most brilliant men who ever lived. Brilliant men. You get to maybe the Catholic theologian par excellence, Thomas Aquinas. I had my professor would often say that all of us in this room, it was a room full of grad students, and the professor could not, our intellects together would pale in comparison to that man's intellect. I mean, he was just one of the finest minds who ever lived. And yeah, it's just amazing that some of the greatest scientific thinkers who helped spawn the scientific method and scientific analysis were Christians. We would say we're Catholics, and that's not a mistake. Where I taught, whenever we'd have final exams, we'd always have 2 exams a day, then kind of release at half day. And religion and science were always together, and I like that. But every single year, I always have at least one student come and ask me, "Why are religion and science together? They don't go together." And you just always have to just shake my head, and because I just wouldn't have the time and sometimes the patience to sit that person down and just tell them that faith and reason are not opposed. I think it was now St. John Paul II in his encyclical Fides et Ratio, who likened faith and reason to 2 wings of a dove. You need both to fly. You do. Reason is a wonderful thing, and it can do a great amount of things, but faith and how that shapes in religion is equally important. And getting to know the Catholic intellectual tradition and all that it has to offer, it's simply amazing, the insights, the anthropological, the psychological, sociological, even the economic insights that some of the greatest thinkers who ever lived were Catholics, or were popes, or were saints, or mystics, theologians, doctors of the church, and they have so much knowledge and wisdom to give. It's amazing how underappreciated so many of them are. For me, one of the great reasons why not just Catholic, but just revel in my Catholicism and am able to live it out in my unique way, because no matter when I have problems or whenever I have something intellectually, just an intellectual roadblock concerning maybe a teaching or an issue, I mean, the church has 2,000 years worth of teachings by great men and women, and you can look back to, and you can always find something new. You can always find something deep. You can always find something moving, and I always do. if you know where to look. And the beautiful thing about the Catholic Church is that there are plenty of places to look. There are plenty of places to look. And so when I'm feeling, maybe I don't want to, when I'm feeling mystical, when I kind of feel that God is this kind of mysterious force, that we have this unitive, not unitive, this unitive relationship to Him. You can look back to Pseudo-Dionysius. You can look back to Saint Bonaventure when you're feeling particularly methodical and analytical. You can look back to Saint Thomas Aquinas. You can look back to Karl Rahner. When you're feeling particularly ascetical, you look back to the Desert Fathers or Saint Francis. All of these are intellectual in their own way, and they have a lot to teach. And that's the beautiful thing. It's not the church doesn't simply have these teachings, but they have so many different personalities and arguments to inform the teaching, not just intellectually, but in the way that these great men and women have lived them out, that you can always be empowered by it. And that's just part of the beauty of the Catholic Church for me. There's always things to learn. There's always new writings to be read for me, and there's always people and saints who have lived them out in a very concrete way that inspires me. And it all ties back to this intellectual tradition. And the last one is maybe the most pertinent one for me. One of the big things that facilitated my conversion is when I came across the verse in the first letter of John 4:8, if you do not have love, you do not know God, for God is love. And that to me said it all. That God is love, love is God, and love, which is the most powerful force in this world, the most powerful experience for an individual, undoubtedly is love. That is nothing other than God. That is the clearest footsteps or vestige of God. It's how He manifests Himself and makes Himself present in love, whether it be through the sacraments, whether it be just through a simple bond of friendship or in family. Love is the answer. And I'll just say this too, just because people would often ask me, what is the meaning of life? I was a philosophy major, and I would tell them, it's very simple. It's love, and it's for two reasons. First reason is quite literally, it is the answer to life. When you think about, and I ask you, think back to and look around at all the things that give your life meaning. Your family, your friends, your pets, your hobbies, everything that gives your life meaning, sustenance, joy, you are said to love. So quite literally, when you think about it, what gives your life meaning? It's love. Love is behind any meaningful person or experience that you have. It's love. So quite literally, the meaning behind life, that which gives life any meaning at all, is love. Most people mean it the second way, teleologically, which means what is the goal? What is the end goal or purpose of life? And that again is love. And I would tell my students this. It's something I'm still, living out and experiencing, but the greatest joy you could ever know is to give yourself for another person. It doesn't always have to mean to sacrifice your life for that person by throwing yourself in front of a bus, per se. But to self-sacrificial love, agape, is the highest, most noble form of love. And it's also the most joyous, too, because there's no greater feeling than knowing that you're protecting someone, you're saving someone, you're feeding someone, you're helping someone, even though you don't benefit, because you care about them for their own sake. That's love. And people who are parents or grandparents, I think particularly understand that. The greatest times that I have and the greatest experiences now that I have of love, of deep love, or just when I get to watch my kids do something new or fun. Just last weekend, my daughter scored 4 goals in a single day in a soccer game. And I don't think you could imagine how elated I was. It's just an amazing thing. I was just, I was so filled with love and pride, and it wasn't for me. It's not as if I benefited from that. But just to see her and her development, and my daughter, and to see her just having fun, it just, there are really no words for it. I mean, it's just love. It's just love. And I'll bring this back because, having been an atheist, I often kind of think back to what new things that I've learned and people that I've met, and how I would have understood it back then. And I had this one student come up to me, and he showed me this video. It's kind of, I guess, relatively famous video. You can find it on YouTube. That makes the case that Christianity is just basically stolen or a composite of these previous religions and practices from pagans and from the Egyptians and all this stuff. And look at Jesus and all these signs. You can find this in Osiris and all this other kind of stuff. And they'll just basically try to say that it's this manufactured composite meant to keep people down and all that. And I could only laugh at that, because not only were there, in this video that I watched, were there certain stretches of truth, large stretches of truth, shall we say, and not only did they not really document their sources, it was not very scientific in the least, but my answer to this student was simply this. You can argue that this particular practice has its roots from somewhere else, and that may all be well and good. My faith isn't necessarily wrapped up in that. You name me one other religion whose main message, whose God is made incarnate and is meant and has us die for a person like me out of love. Love is the central ethic. It is the message of all of the New Testament. This is what Jesus is. Jesus is the Logos, right? He is the Word of God. And you read in the first letter, and read in the Gospel of John, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and the Word became flesh. That's Jesus. Well, what is Jesus' word? What is his message? What exactly is he trying to communicate? It's love. That is the whole point. He's trying to talk to the Pharisees and then the scribes and talking to everyone, saying that, you have the 10 Commandments, but love God, love your neighbor. And what's the commonality in that? Love. It is the end all be all. Love. You name me one other religion that understands that, and I can't think of any. Not anything like the Christian faith, not anything like, in my experience, the Catholic Church has understood love. Love is not only the greatest force in this world, it is something that we're called to do by faith, by being made in the image of God, by recognizing as creatures our Creator, who made us out of love, who saved us out of love, even though we didn't deserve it. Love is everything. It is the answer to everything. And our faith gets it. Our faith gets it, and it tries to live it out every single day. That is why I'm proud to be Catholic, because my faith gets it. And my faith has gotten it for 2,000 years. May have not lived it out perfectly for 2,000 years, but my faith gets it and has not wavered from it, and it will never waver from it. And I'm proud of that, and it guides me and it challenges me every single day. Love is the answer, and because of my faith, because of the Catholic Church, I'm able to be a better person every single day. And I try to be. I hope you do too. Thank you.